What's up, Legion? Welcome back to I Still Call It a Lariat. That's right, I'm in charge. No showtime. It is me. We have a very special episode for you today. Joining me is our star of the Lariat Podcast Network. That's right, Mr. Mozart Fontaine. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, thank you. That's very humbling, man. There's been a lot of humbling things that have happened in the last, say, 6 months with me. Like as our episode of Down the Rabbit Hole drops, you'll see there's a very special Chick Magnets, which was the tag team I was in for 5 years, and I've been brothers with these guys for going on 20 now. And the reason that 5 years is important is because on the independent scene, you really don't have a 5-year run at anything.
No, never ever.
But that drops today. Dropped at 5 o'clock Eastern time. We had the top 50 ECWA, East Coast Wrestling Association. So that's ECWA 1967. You can look that up on YouTube. Top 50 matches, man, of the entire history of that promotion. And now this privilege of being with your network and kind of pulling the kind of viewers that we have been is really humbling, man. I got to thank you.
Man, I love having you guys on. I love the fact that we're growing the way we are. And congratulations. Here's another humbling experience. This is going to be the first show that drops for the new year, 2026. This
Wow.
is it. It is
Cool.
us. Steve Zapf, Mozart Fontaine. We're starting the year off, and we're going to do a little bit of fun with this one. We're going to be talking about our favorite title belts. And I know this is always subject to opinion, so let me state this again. It is our favorites, not what is always the best, just what we love. So this is a completely opinion thing. But before we get into that, Mozart, you haven't had to deal with this. We get to go over our nonprofit organizations that we support on this channel. So this is a big one.
Do it.
So the first one that we're going over is, of course, the American Red Cross and their disaster relief funds. We love to talk about this. Mr. Brock, who is the main host for You Heard It Here Worse. He also helps me review the Progress UK wrestling promotion. Several years ago, he's told this story before. Several years ago, his house actually burned down.
Oh,
and
man.
it's a terrible situation. But he said within hours, the American Red Cross was there with gift cards, Visa gift cards, and things like that, and any prescription needs that they needed, things for toiletries, anything to get them into a hotel for the night, and anytime they needed anything, a prescription filled, contacts, anything like that, they were there and extremely helpful. So this is one of those organizations that I always like to bring up because it's one of those that accepts your time as well as your money. So if you can't help with money, but you can help with time or clothing or anything like that with some of the hurricanes or the wildfire reliefs that they give, that's amazing. And paying it forward is always the right thing to do in this world. I say all the time that the wrestling community really comes together with some of this stuff, especially anytime you hear that a wrestler is hurt or needs something or has a GoFundMe. And that's going to bring me up to the next one. And of course, we always have on our descriptions, and that's your buddy, my friend, Big Papa Stro, the Maestro, his GoFundMe. I know he is always going through some medical stuff, and we always want to reach out and help the brothers and the people that have entertained us for as long as they have, because Stro, he's putting his life through for this business, and that deserves to be respected and commended. And that's why we like to make sure that link is always in the description below. And the last one, last but not least, we have Tap Cancer Out. Mozart, you'll probably enjoy this one because you always enjoy real combat. So Tap Cancer Out is a series of jiu-jitsu tournaments that's held around the country that helps out with varying cancer relief funds, including but not limited to, of course, Alex's Lemonade Stand, American Brain Tumor Association, Isabella Santos Foundation, Little Pink Houses of Hope, Camp Sunshine, Christopher's Haven, the Sidney Kimmel Comprehensive Cancer Center at Johns Hopkins, CureCervicalCancer.org, First Descent, The newest one is the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And of course, everyone's favorite, Tom Coughlin's J Fund. It's been a while since I've said the J Fund. I had to get that one out.
I know it has been. I think the very first time you had us come onto the network, I got to hear that.
We missed the J Fund, but these are always amazing organizations to help out with. Obviously, we are personally involved with Maestro, and then the American Red Cross has affected our friends personally. And this one for me, I have a lot of things involving cancer in my life as far as my family and my friends. So this is actually, I participated in their tournament for jiu-jitsu, and it's an amazing setup. It's so cool to see. And the fact that they help out with these different things, I love that we can promote them sometimes. So Mozart, I love having you on to be able to promote this stuff.
I love being here. Well, I think that it's important to say too, that independent wrestling, a lot of the promotions in their area will do things like that. You know, for example, here in Delaware, we were heavily involved with Boys and Girls Club. And, you know, obviously cancer near and dear to our heart too. My good friend, God, he's been gone for, I want to say 2 decades now, if not longer. Jeffrey Peterson, who was a Super 8 competitor and had some lineage down in Florida, got some traction down there when he moved down there. He was an innovator on the light heavyweight scene. We lost him to cancer at a really young age, so that was very hard for everybody, and multiple family members and friends too. So
that's what I'm saying. It's time that we didn't let cancer kick out anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we need that disease that I always say to myself, why have we not cured that yet? There's no excuse.
I know. You know? This is one of those organizations, actually, now that they're past their normal touring center, I'm probably going to have, I've reached out before, and I have been in contact with their president and founder.
Oh, cool.
And he wants to come on the show at some point. He was just in the middle of their busiest time of the year.
Yeah, and that is fantastic.
He's an old school wrestling fan, so he'll get along great with us. It might be a situation where we put him on rabbit hole with you guys.
Oh man, we're always trying to go down some type of conspiracy or
that's what I'm saying.
Some type of nonsense.
Let's talk to him about whether or not Judo Gene LaBelle was really the originator of MMA. That'll be where we get it on.
Oh wow. Hey, listen, modern MMA, but you have to remember where's Howard to look it up? I think it was 1930 or 40. Kingfish Levinsky versus Ray Steele might have been the first big time mixed martial arts bout.
Cross mixed martial arts thing.
Yeah, because it was boxer versus wrestler, so it was very rudimentary in what arts you were using, the basic stand up versus the basic ground and pound game. But Ray Steele was no joke. Ray Steele was a shooter. He was a bad dude from those bygone gunslinging eras.
And you know what? Some of these titles that we're going to be talking about, they've been held by some pretty bad dudes. So
yes, that's the other thing too, is title belts. Yeah, we'll get into it, but the title belts should kind of, the man, should kind of complement each other.
I feel like some of these titles are directly associated with certain wrestlers. There are certain guys that when you see these belts, you automatically think of someone.
I can guarantee you that's going to happen when you flash these things up on the screen for the viewers, and they're going to have
absolutely.
They're going to know who held that belt.
So Mozart, I'm going to start with the one that you're probably least familiar with, actually, so that we can get to one of the one. I think we're going to end with the one that we're most familiar with and that we love the most, me and you. And I think we're going to start with the one that you're a little least familiar with, and that is going to be the IWGP Heavyweight Title, the one that is most closely associated with Kazuchika Okada and Kenny Omega. It's not the most recent version of it, but it's the one just before it. I love this belt. First of all, it looks really cool. It looks prestigious. I also love that they have nameplates as the side plates, so that everyone that's held the title, it's listed on the belt.
That's pretty cool.
So like it's kind of like the Stanley Cup trophy in that sense, where like everybody holds that belt. Like there's been 60 title holders. Well, if you look, there's like a good amount of people that are on those belts that's just on the side belt
Yeah.
plate, and that's awesome to me. I
This
really
is
love
not the
that.
big
That's
round one, right? Like, because I think that like the classic '80s, round IWGP. That's the one that I like.
so this one is a little bit more squared off, and it has kind of the almost like a crown top to it.
Okay, I've seen that one too. That is a pretty sharp looking.
Yeah, this is a much more recent, and it became
Okay.
that title. They kind of just recreated the plates
Mhm.
when they were doing other belts, because they did
Yeah.
their version of the Intercontinental title as well, and it was
Right.
pretty much that title, but instead of a black strap, they did a white strap on it.
Okay.
Which
That's
a
pretty
little
cool.
part of me always loves a white strap too. Like I kind of
Yeah.
like a different colored strap.
Mhm.
But that was always a really cool one for me. And like I said, I know you're a little less familiar with modern Japanese wrestling. You stick a
Can
little
I
bit
put a
more.
late entry? I'm going to put a late entry in here too, if you'll let me when we get to it, because there's one I just thought of that's probably a lot of folks might not be familiar with, but it's worth a look.
All right, let's pull it up now then.
So if you check out, and I told you about this, the current ECWA, the East Coast Wrestling Association heavyweight belt, it's nicknamed Big Red. It's a
Okay.
Reggie Parks masterpiece, and that thing is beautiful. Um, it's been around now for it's not super new. It's probably 15, 20 years old, something like that.
Oh yeah, here it is, Big Red. I got it right here.
It is a really cool throwback, kind of coming into the modern age. It's that kind of bridge between what was and where it was going. So I always like the shape of it. I was actually part of the design of the belt. A bunch of us got together, put it together, gifted it to Mr. Kettner, to Jim Kettner, when I think we were about to switch venues at that point in time, around '05, or maybe it was about '04. I think it was, because it was before we switched to our venue where he closed out his run as the owner. But yeah, I like that one too. So let me
I
just throw
remember
that
this
in there.
belt. This belt was always cool to
Yeah.
me, and I loved it because so many of the indie promotions that were around when I first got in, they were kind of just using replica belts of other of the WWF or
Yeah.
WWE or
Mhm.
ECW replica belts or WCW replica belts.
Yeah.
I was kind of I got lucky that the promotions that I started with, you could say they had a money mark, you could say whatever you want that it
Mhm.
was, but they were able to get some custom belts. So
Yeah.
I always felt like that was one of those things that set something aside from saying, hey, we're strictly indie, to, yeah, we're indie because we can't fill a 10,000 seat arena, but we're still a professional wrestling organization. And I
Yeah.
feel like
Mhm.
that's one of those things that ECWA really did, was, like you said, Jim Kettner,
Mhm.
legend in this business. That company has so much lineage to it, and so many legends have gone through that company. I mean, yourself included. Some of the people who talk
Thank you.
to us now just because we have Mozart Fontaine on our network. I mean, and that's true. I'm not just blowing. Like, we had a
Oh, thank you,
comment
man.
on one of our YouTube videos that was like, oh, this came across and I realized that Mozart was on there, and that's amazing. And now I'm watching.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, we did. We really touched the community, and Jim himself has had a huge impact on American wrestling, if not globally, through the Super 8, through guys like AJ Styles, who are on TV now. A lot of guys came through the promotion, not just the Super 8 tournament, but the belts. What was really cool about the belts is that the championships, which is part of the reason we had, one of the guys comes up, a friend of mine, manager ES Easton, was like, hey, let's see if we can get a pool going. Let's get this new championship. Because the belts were just, there wasn't a focus on what they looked like. It was the champion is what they were focused on. Like, I think when I was Mid-Atlantic champion for Jim, I loved the belt because it was the shape of my second favorite U.S. belt, which is the version that Sting and Rick Rude wore. It was a kind of a replica of that, but not quite. And it just had
Okay.
Mid-Atlantic. It had a different faceplate, but that shape was the basic shape. And I loved it. I was like, oh my God, this is cool. The tag belts were cool looking, but not over the top. They were really more like I had a 70s look, and they were like just shiny gold and very flat. There wasn't a lot of intricacies to them. So there was not a lot of focus on the actual prize. It was what it meant. So it was kind of cool to get that big red and have that presented, and that's what the champion would wear. And it kind of took on a life of its own because it's still there today. That's what Ryan Kavanaugh uses as the heavyweight championship still. It's really cool.
That's all. Yeah. I mean, it really is a timeless belt. It looks, I could see this being the belt for any promotion realistically throughout history. It definitely has that great look about it.
And we wanted something that was unique, that was we designed. Like, not saying I don't think there was any copyrights, like somebody probably could have gotten it done, but we said, well, we want the bottom to look like this and the top like this title. And then we, had it all drawn up and written up and sent it out to Reggie. Reggie sends back the renderings. Hey, what about this? We make some tweaks. It was a really cool process,
And of course, you're speaking of Reggie Parks, who has created, I don't know, pretty much all of the best belts that everyone has ever thought of in history.
A lot of Mid-Atlantic. Yeah, he had a pretty good career too, I think, in the Mid-Atlantic territories.
Well, and then who is it that took over from? I believe his name's Dave Milliken.
Yeah, Dave Milliken does a lot of the newer
is
belts.
The one who took over Reg Parks stuff,
and he does too.
It's funny that we're here. Have you ever heard there's a story. We always talk about how bitter Bret Hart is, but have you ever heard the funny story?
You almost made me spit out my soda.
Have you ever heard the funny story that Bret Hart does about Owen and Reg Parks? So Red, I think it was for WrestleMania 4 specifically. It was one of the I think it was one of the Atlantic City ones, or it might have been 5 because Owen was on 5 as the Blue Blazer, and they're staying at one of the hotels or whatever, and Owen calls Stu Hart's room and does a Reg Park voice and is like, I think I could have taken you. And Stu, being Stu, is getting hot about it. Like, he's like, if you wanted to try me, why didn't you try me? But like, I every time I hear about Reggie Parks, so I think about that story of Owen Hart calling his father and being like, Well, Reg, if you wanted to try me, why didn't you ever try me? Like, we could have done this. And
God.
and I guess at the end of it, like, Owen just can't help himself and starts cracking up. And of course, his dad is pissed off because it's Stu Hart.
I love it.
Oh man!
If you wanted to try me, why didn't you try me?
Yeah, with the Stu Hart voice, the most imitated voice. If you wanted to try me, why didn't you try me?
See, I can't do it. That's good.
Man, I heard some great stories about Stu Hart. That's one of the rabbit holes we'll go down one day with you guys.
I never met Stu. I would have loved to. That would have been cool.
I never had the pleasure, but luckily enough, I had some great stories from my trainer, Larry Sharp.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Yeah, I would have loved to pick Larry's brain. Larry, the coolest thing that Larry ever said to me is I worked a show, and you might have been on it. It was a New Moon show.
Okay.
And Larry was there, and I was working with a guy named Ron Starr, and I knew Ron, but I'd never worked with him before. And we had a fun match. I really enjoyed myself. And Larry had pulled me aside. I was working as a heel, and Larry says, "Hey, kid," and I said, "What?" He goes, "You're a pretty good heel, but just slow it down a little bit." And I was like, wait, did Larry Sharp just tell me I'm a good heel? Wait, I don't care about anything else after that. He just said I'm a good heel.
That's always the thing is, like you almost don't know how to take the advice at that point. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I had Johnny Rods tell me I had a good match once. I went,
you were wow. Like, and afterwards you heard nothing. You were like, just down. I don't even want to hear anything. Then I'm like,
it's cool. Vince is calling me next week because Johnny Rods told me I had an okay match today.
Right. There you go. Oh my
Oh man.
God.
All right. So I'm gonna combine the next two because you really like one,
Mhm.
and the other one is one of my favorites. And
Okay.
so you love, or you like, the Hulk Hogan title that he holds in WrestleMania 3. I
Yeah.
believe it's WrestleMania 2 even. It
Check
might
the
even
big
be the
world on
WrestleMania
it.
title.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's more of like the rounded off, but it's not, it's still
Mm-hmm.
more of a square shape than the round.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say this, I'm going to combine that with this one. I like the one that he won off Sheik. And
That was pretty cool too.
I don't normally like round titles.
Yeah.
So that tells you something, how much I like this title. But I like that it was bigger. I like that it had like the multiple side plates on there,
Yeah.
like going across. Like each side had like 4 side plates, but like 2 on top and 2 on the bottom.
Yeah.
And then the one that you like, I do really like that one. It
just disappeared. It was like, oh, that was a cool
yeah,
belt,
they
man. Like, what
just went to
happened
the
there?
wing. They went to the Winged Eagle one, the next one. And
Which
I do
never
like
made
this one.
sense
You
to
want
me
to know why
because
I think you like this one? For the same
what's that one?
reason why I like it. It has a very similar shape to that NWA TV title.
Okay, that world title does. Yes.
Yeah,
It
that
does.
world title, the
Mhm.
world title that you like, has that similar shape to that
It's
NWA.
almost like it's squished a little bit and
Yeah.
it's taller, like up on the weight. Yeah. But I thought I like that as a world championship because again, it's got a world on it. Like the Winged Eagle had this little tiny, tiny world, maybe. Like I don't care about the bit. It looked like a US belt to me.
I,
I'm like, that doesn't look
I'm a
like a world title.
I'm also a big believer that should be the name of titles too. Like when you refer to it. So this is one of those things they do in AEW, and I'm not here to bash AEW, so I just want to
Mhm.
make sure that I get that out there. But
Yeah.
like Hangman Page has started, refers to it as the men's world title
Okay.
and the women's world title. And like, I don't know, I don't want to sound like the sexist guy, but acting like the women's title is on the same level as the men's title, it's not. I'm sorry. At the end of the day, the men's title
Yeah,
closes out the show
it
every
just never
time.
has been with wrestling. I think
No,
I think,
and maybe it
yeah,
will be someday. Maybe I'm on the wrong side of history on this one, and I'll admit it. Maybe I am, but
yeah,
I think a really cool distinction, instead of calling it the men's world title, because he started getting announcers to call it that too, and I'm like, stop, please stop. Just call it the world heavyweight title.
yeah.
Your world heavyweight champion. I'm your world heavyweight champion. That settles all the
Mhm.
distinction whatsoever. I am the champion of the world. Like, I'm the heavyweight champion of the world. I'm not your TNT champion. I'm not your television champion. I'm not your cruiserweight champion. I am the best of the best.
I would go so far and just to say drop everything. Like if you're a female and you're the world champion, then you're the world champion. Like it doesn't have to be, oh, I'm the
See,
women's champion. I'm the
See, that's
men's
the thing is,
champion.
for the women, I would
Let
say,
it
hey,
go.
I'm the world champion. And then for the
Yeah,
men, if you really want that distinction, I'm the world heavyweight champion.
right.
If you want to distinguish between the two, but either way, just call both of them, I'm the world champion. That's it. Like,
Yeah, because if I'm right, and you've kept way up on it more than me, in typical combat sports like UFC or whatever, we have a women's division. I'm not sure that they delineate. They just have
not
weight classes.
now,
So
yeah, they
you're
just
not
had
going to have
UFC. Yeah, I like, obviously they'll call it a women's the women's division, but it's because they don't have men fighting in that division. But
right.
truthfully, it's usually, and the only real difference is the women's division doesn't go as heavy, so you won't have a women's welterweight division or a women's lightweight division, which is,
Mhm.
I think, 155. They'll do featherweight, strawweight, bantamweight, stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I agree. I think just calling yourself, as a woman, just calling yourself the world champion, and if you really need some distinction between the two, call it the world heavyweight title. That'll
Yeah.
give you your distinction. Congratulations.
I like that.
Like MJF is the current world heavyweight champion of AEW.
Yeah.
That's where it's at. Call it that.
Yep.
Cody, Punk, they're the world heavyweight champion.
Which is, you'll never be able to explain that to somebody. I told you in pre-production that
That there's
trying to explain that you have an undisputed championship and a world championship in the same promotion is counterproductive. Whoever thought of that should probably lose their job. I'll just be frank about
well,
it.
they need to stop calling it the undisputed title, because the fact that you have a second world title means that
It's
there's
disputed.
a dispute.
Then it's completely disputed, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then, but you know what the problem is, and I understand why they do it, is because if you just call it the WWE Championship, it doesn't sound as prestigious as the World Championship.
Exactly.
So you put
I
yourself in a
agree, and that's
conundrum.
what they were doing for a while. Let's get back to those WWE titles that we were, well, WWF titles. I'm sorry, they were the WWF titles at the time, because
Hey, I'm gonna
I
have to
remember
change
the
my
one that you
position
like.
here.
That one that you like, I'll always associate it with Hogan defending it at WrestleMania 3 against Andre, obviously.
Exactly. It's Andre, right.
And I remember this is one that, a little tidbit that I feel like most people know, but I'll say it anyway. That was also, they kind of made like a giant version of that belt in case Vince decided to go with Andre winning.
Yeah.
So there was a version of that belt. There's a version of that belt that fit Andre.
Wow.
You know, that's the crazy part. They were going to put it around Andre's waist if he decided if they decide they were going to go that route.
We're going to set number 2 with the space wall here, because I have
set number 2 with the space wall.
Yeah.
And then the green title, the round title that I really like, I'll always remember after he won that title, and it's funny because I'm going to use Andre on this one as well, where he comes in and he pours the champagne over Hogan and the belt, and like,
oh yeah,
like, and he's sitting there talking to Gene Okerlund, which, let's face it, Gene Okerlund might be the greatest backstage interviewer in.
He was so much fun, man. Like, he was professional. Like, you didn't get a sense that he wasn't professional, but he was just really lighthearted and fun. Yeah.
I think he always he always had that nice air to him about it. All right, so let's talk about, which one do I have next for you? All right, let's talk about your U.S. title, the one that is your favorite, which I do love this, and this is specifically the U.S. title, the NWA United States Heavyweight Title that Magnum TA held originally. This is also the one that Nikita held, if I recall correctly.
It was the focal point of the Best of 7 series.
And this is what he won off of Tully, correct?
I believe so. No, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was just he either showed up with it or was presented to Magnum. I believe he won.
But I mean, like, this is him. He won the U.S. title off Tully. It wasn't the TV title. It was the U.S. title.
Yeah, it was from Tully, if I'm not mistaken, or Wahoo, because he had a couple of runs with it.
Yeah, but, and then who else held? There's a couple. I think Luger also held this belt for a little while.
Luger held that one. Barry Windham held that version.
Barry Windham. There's a lot of there's a lot of star power that's held this belt.
The 4 coolest belts, because we didn't mention these either, but I think the 4 coolest belts were when the Horsemen had Barry Windham. All the versions of the belts that they had, those World Tag Team titles,
the World Tag Team titles that they had back then,
they really complemented each other, and they made the champions look important, individually important. Like, the U.S. title looked like it was the number 1 contender to the world title, and the world title looked like, as you talked about earlier, it looked like something everybody just wouldn't hold.
So I do like this belt. I like the U.S. title in general. I like this one, and then like you said, your second favorite, the one that Sting and those
Rick
guys
Rude.
held in the and Rick Rude held in the early '90s. I remember loving that belt.
Oh God, that was great. It was a really nice looking championship.
So the U.S. title, even now, you know, say what you will, that the U.S. title now that they have is not as cool as this one, and I'll agree with you, but it's still. I think it's better than most of their titles that they have right now.
It does look better than most of them. The only issue I have with the new titles is they really do look like toys. They just don't look like championships. I get it. They're trying to sell some toys, but they're not cheap either. Don't make them look like cheap.
Yeah.
They just look cheap.
I agree. So I'm going to move from that one into what would be the number 1 title at that time, and that's the big gold world heavyweight title. This is Showtime's favorite title of all time. I love this belt.
The original one that said NWA World Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah, well, the one that they made specifically for Flair.
Yeah.
So Mozart, I always like to hit people with this trivia when we talk about this belt.
Okay.
This title belt, until later on when they made just the plain, like, remember
Mhm.
the original nameplate was all like bejeweled and like had like the fanciness to it when it said Flair on there.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then later on, it became that just plain flat nameplate that they
Yep.
used for everybody. So here's the trivia. There are actually only 3 guys in history that had the jeweled nameplate.
Okay. So obviously one is Flair.
Obviously, one is Flair. Do you know who the other 2 guys are? It's gonna be funny who it is.
So I'm gonna guess. Was it Ronnie Garvin and Dusty Rhodes?
Close. Ronnie Garvin
Okay.
is usually the one that no one gets.
Okay. I just knew because of the time frame he held the belt. Yeah.
Believe it or not, it was Ric Flair, Ronnie Garvin, and Sting.
Really? That's pretty cool for Sting,
They
though.
held it
Yeah.
off until, because the plan was in 91 when Sting took it off them, they were going to run hard with Sting, and they
Yeah.
did. And so they gave Sting that bejeweled nameplate too.
Yeah, because like Dusty, now that I think about it, Dusty's was just like an engraved, like flat,
Yeah.
goofy looking, because it looked out of place on the belt.
Exactly. And think about the guys that have held the belt from when Flair introduced it until Sting got it, aside from Ronnie Garvin.
Yeah.
So you got Flair, you have Garvin, obviously, you have Sting, but you had Ricky Steamboat in there. You had Dusty in there at one point. There's a lot of star power that held that title.
I think it could have been a replica at that point, but I think that's still the belt they were using when Barry Windham had it and was, had the run against the Great Muta.
I believe so. Yes, they. Well, and it's also still the same title that Flair took to the WWF when he went there in '92, because they wouldn't give him the deposit back, and I
love that.
I love that. Well, and realistically, it's the title. If you look, it is the title that they used until the day WCW closed down.
Right.
And they always joke because when there was a replica version of it that they used at the end. When there was a bunch of nonsense going on during the Vince Russo booking.
Right.
But when they brought the real one back out, I think it's Heenan is the one who says something about it. And he goes, yeah, look at that. That's the one that has the bent plate. Because if you ever look at the top of the plate, it was bent into the wrestler a little bit. I think someone hit it with something, or like got jostled or dropped or something like that, and it actually folded in a little bit. So the top of the plate where it used to say NWA and then it was just World Heavyweight Champion, that actually got folded in.
Wow.
But that was such a cool belt. I know Showtime always likes it because it looks like not everyone can hold that belt.
Yeah, and that's funny because when you mentioned that to me earlier when we were talking, I thought he couldn't be more correct. It doesn't look like something everybody could hold, and that's the point.
And if you look at the guys that held it, even at the end,
a
lot of them, it just looks right on. If you look, so I understand Hogan always looks weird without a world title belt on him when he was wrestling, but Hogan was a big dude, and that title looked right on Hogan.
Yeah.
Goldberg, regardless of how you feel of him as a wrestler,
looked good.
That belt looked right on Goldberg.
Sure did.
Because he was so big and he had that V shape, and that belt just sat just right on him. Obviously, it looked right on Flair because it's Flair, but it looked so good on Sting. It looked good on DDP. Like the guys that held it, even when they tried to like keep him there, and I'm gonna say a name that not a lot of people like associating, but Benoit.
Yeah,
it still looked good on Chris.
Yeah. Yep.
So and like it's one of those things. I think that was, if the belt didn't look good on you, I don't know if they necessarily put that belt on you sometimes. And I think that goes a little bit into Mozart. You can attest this, the old Vince adage. Well, do they pass the airport test?
Yeah.
Do you look like somebody that if I see you in the airport, I might not know who you are, but I know you're somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was a really cool, like, barometer because obviously in the early days it would have been somebody huge like Andre or Hulk Hogan, but then it would just turn into guys with great physiques, guys with just a look, an aura about them, So it could go either way. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that's even to the point where sometimes guys who look super vanilla, like Bob Backlund, still look like somebody, you know. The original Bob Backlund. Bob when Bob did that run with Bret Hart, he had the buzz cut. He looked kind of like a bad dude.
Yeah,
But the original,
Bob Backlund's a scary man though. That's a
yeah,
shooter right there.
Legit, yeah, he's legit.
I always like if you go back and watch, it's the 92 Royal Rumble or 93 Royal Rumble. I'm sorry, 93 Royal Rumble. It's not the one that Flair wins. It's the one after it.
Okay.
And him and Bob Backlund, I think, start off the Rumble.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that.
Flair and Backlund, like there's a point in that Rumble where you get a solid like 3 or 4 minutes of Flair and Backlund wrestling, which
wow.
Yeah, and the joke that the thing that the announcers keep saying is, oh, well, Bob Backlund's trying to make his comeback at 42 years old or something like that, or whatever he was at the time.
Right.
The joke of it is they never bring it up. Flair is the same exact age.
Mm-hmm.
To like the day almost. Like they're like 4 months apart from each other.
Yeah, I knew that they were the same age. I didn't know when their birthday. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
like
crazy,
they're born the same year, so they were the same age. The only difference is Flair never took time off, and Backlund had taken like 6 years off or something like that.
Yeah. Wow.
So
I wonder if that bout probably happened somewhere too in the early '80s. I would think with one of the crossovers.
I don't know if it did, but I mean,
I know Harley and Bob did, so maybe it was Harley and Bob that I'm thinking of.
I know there was a Harley and Bob, but I would have loved to, because after Bob lost the title, he kind of went away.
Faded away. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But could you imagine if Bob had migrated over to the NWA to Crockett, and we had gotten like a Bob Backlund versus Ric Flair, or one of those guys? Bob Backlund versus Ronnie Garvin.
They didn't have to be over the top in that territory, that section of the country. They were more reality-based personas.
And let's face it, if we're talking about a shooter, Bob Backlund was a shooter. He's also the last guy to. He's also the last guy to hold that green title that I like. Or I'm sorry, that was the last belt that he held before Sheiky won it, and then Hogan won it off Sheik.
Mm-hmm.
So and it's so weird because hearing that the Iron Sheik was a transitional champion is kind of weird, because when you're talking about bad dudes, that's a bad dude.
Yeah. It in those days, I think they wanted guys as the world champion who could be very believable.
So Mozart, I'm gonna move on to another world title. This is a territory that I love. We talked about that. If they could have modernized, they would have been probably the one that made the national expansion. But unfortunately, the old man was a little stuck in his ways, and he wanted wrestlers instead of sports entertainers. And that is the last two versions of the AWA World Heavyweight Title. The version that Hogan won off, or Hogan didn't win off Bockwinkel, and the version that Rick Martel held.
Yeah, they were cool too. They looked like heavyweight. They looked like world titles. They looked like
world titles. And I'll throw yours in there that you brought up just before we went on, and that's going to be the world-class heavyweight title, because all three of those belts were like around there. And realistically, if you were looking for someone to do the national expansion, those two groups could have done it, and they just couldn't get out of their way.
Right. So at the same time, I think the same time they were running with that really cool world class championship, which they were calling it the world class world championship at the time because they had withdrawn from the NWA.
Yep.
Rick Rude was the America's champion, and maybe I don't know if they elevated him or if he still were, but the America's championship was the same as the NWA National and the NWA World TV Championship, which it kind of showed some consistency throughout the NWA and the different promotions that were part of it. Because I don't necessarily know that they called them territories, then they were just different promotions. They were different areas. Maybe they did loosely, I'm not sure, but
I don't think fans ever called them territories. I think it was just the
yeah,
boys still referred to them as territories.
that's
Like,
the
hey, I'm gonna,
territory, right?
and I don't think they necessarily even referred to them as territories. They referred to them as the area that they were. Hey, I'm going to New York.
Yeah,
Hey, I'm going to Georgia. Hey, I'm going to Florida. I'm going
exactly.
to Dallas.
Yeah. So I think when they withdrew, I can't remember. There was they did a big angle around it about withdrawing. And I think maybe they just started recognizing Rude as now the world-class world championship, and they presented him with that really cool-looking belt. But I believe at the same time he had that America's title. That'd be a nice piece of history to look at. But he, I just remember watching that belt was the same thing. And that showed me the consistency between, you know, some of the major promotions, major territories that were part of the alliance.
I want to get back to those AWA titles though, because I'm looking at the one right now, and the one that Martel held. I always thought it was cool because the font on the title itself is pretty plain looking. Like if you really look at it, it really is just etched in there, but it's still such a cool looking belt. Like it again, it has that feel like the big gold title does.
Yeah.
I like that it has the white gold on it instead of like it's all gold. And then the other one, again, it has the white gold, but it had the fancy like flame design on it. That's the one that I believe Bockwinkel and Hogan were really going after for at the end before Hogan went to WWF to work for Vince the second time. So I love that. Obviously, this title, I mean, is there anyone that you can associate the AWA title with other than Vern and Bockwinkel? Realistically, I mean,
you had some really cool champions. You had Kurt Hennig at one point. I believe, he was right.
Yeah,
Rick
Hennig, and Hennig actually, for those of the Legion who hasn't joined us before, the version of Kurt Hennig that was the AWA champion, his feud with Jerry Lawler is actually Showtime's favorite feud of all time.
Really? That's a good feud. Yeah, they were.
He is a Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig guy forever and always. During his wrestling career, Mr. Perfect is the reason why he would use a fisherman as his finisher.
Yeah,
and he wouldn't break out his fisherman if someone wasn't gonna. If the plan wasn't for him to win with it.
Right.
So
that's a really good. Well, that's the thing too with a finisher is that's how you protect them. You know, if you want to use the finish.
I will say this. I'd not kick out of his fisherman. I did grab onto the ropes once when we were fighting. So
but it doesn't. That's fine because it saves the finish.
That's just ring awareness.
It's ring awareness, exactly. which is also, and you know this from being a wrestler yourself. Ring awareness is a real thing. It's not just part of the storyline. It's like, where the hell am I? Because if you're halfway under that rope, there's no reason that you should. Well, first of all, the referee should have his ring awareness and not count because you've broken the plane of the rope.
Exactly.
But if you can grab that rope, why would you waste the time to kick out?
Exactly. And Mozart, I'll give you this one. I'll give you this story. Me and Showtime had a match once because every time we, for a solid 2 or 3 years, we were either tag team partners or feuding with each other, which I feel like that is the story of most tag teams.
Right.
But it was still early in both our careers, and my ring awareness was not, our ring awareness was not the best.
Right.
And I always did the backwards Shawn Michaels. So I would hit the super kick and then go up top and hit the big elbow and try to win the match that way. And Showtime comes in. I'm in the corner. I give him a back elbow real quick. I give him the super kick. And I don't even look because we've done this so many times that I'm not even paying attention to where he lands because he's going to land where I can hit him.
Right.
I'm on the top rope before I realize he's all the way in the other corner.
You're like, oh boy.
Yeah. And my thought process is, well, I can jump down and move him, or I can just go for broke and go for this.
Nice.
And I went for it, and there was no float on that jump. It was a pure dive. Neither one. I don't think either one of us have ever felt pain like that before in our lives, and it was just all. I was lighter then, but it was a solid like 210 coming down on him, and like 210 coming down on the mat for me, and I'm just both of us are like, this is terrible.
Oh my God! If that wasn't the finish, it was now.
I left it up to him. He's like, do I have to kick out? I was like, do you have to kick out? And I like barely hooked the leg. I'm like, you decide if you're kicking out. Oh man. All right. So
that's brutal.
I like I said, I love those AWA titles, and I do love that. I love a lot of stuff about Dallas, the world class, just the promotion in general. Aren't they? Yeah. They're the first ones that were really breaking out the music, weren't they?
On that kind of stage, I think they generally get the credit for it. Yeah, I think it was the Freebirds. I think they
the Freebirds coming down to Freebird.
Yeah, and it was probably the first time it had been done on national TV like that, for sure. Is the general credit goes to them.
And then and that was when Kerry started coming down to Modern Day Warrior, right?
Modern Day Warrior, yeah. And Kevin was using Nugent Stranglehold. Everybody, the Fantastics at the time were using Sharp Dressed Man. So there was a lot of stuff, which that's where the Chick Magnets got it from, was Jimmy Garvin and the Fantastics for sure. But they were using a lot of popular music at the time, and it was their camera angles. It was kind of like they were very cutting edge with the way that they were doing production, and it paid off big time because there were a lot of, obviously there's a lot of storied promotions from the storied territories from those days, but a lot of people think Georgia Championship Wrestling, like Championship Wrestling from Florida, Portland, but man, world class, like that was the Texas promotion, although Texas had a real storied history too, like Southeastern Championship Wrestling with Joe Blanchard. Like, there was some really, really cool stuff. Like,
you had the Funk still running over in like Amarillo. You had you had some stuff. Where was Brody? Where was Brody?
I think Gory Guerrero, and weren't the Guerreros running out of like South Texas at one point?
I think so. I think they were technically like an offshoot of of one of the other territories. Though I think they were like, I think the Guerreros were like a sub, like a sub territory of Blanchard, maybe.
Just sound because I don't think it was Funk. It could have been.
I think it was Blanchard. I know it wasn't world class, so I think they were like they were running like the towns that they would run, but it was under the banner of. And I could be wrong. By the way, Legion, if you guys know this and you want to comment on this, please let us know.
Yeah, our historian's not with us tonight. He left us high and dry. So.
Yeah. Usually while we're trying to figure it out, Howard's already clacking away on the computer.
He's looking it up. I don't want to clack
away at the computer because my keyboard's louder than that.
Exactly.
All right, so I saved the best for last. And I say the best because this is the one title that I feel like no matter who you talk to, wrestling historian-wise, this is on their list. So whether it's your favorite, whether it's your third favorite, if it's one of your top 3 or top 5 titles that you love, that's like, hey, if you're the number 2 in every division of being a wide receiver, but there's a different guy for number 1, that means you're the number 1 wide receiver because you're the number 2 across the board, which means you're probably better than everyone else at something.
Yeah.
So, and that is going to be the NWA World Television Title.
Oh, man.
So here's the important question for you, Mozart. I asked you this for the U.S. title before we came on. I'm going to ask you this on air. The NWA Television Title. Do you like it better with the black strap or the red strap?
I like the red. I thought the red was the key. That's what made me think of like Big Red for like ECWA. Like that was part of the inspiration for that.
This is one of the ones I like as a red strap too. I like both. Don't get me wrong. I like both of them, but I like that the current Billy Corgan iteration of the NWA uses the red strap.
Yeah, because and I'll tell you why, because it's got the red lettering. It just sets it off better. Or the red color in the banners, not red lettering.
And I like that on the side for the TV, it has like the ABC logo and the CBS logo on there. That was really cool for me. Let's face it, this title is associated with Arn Anderson and Arn Anderson only. This is Arn's belt. I mean, one of my favorite early NWA WCW feuds that I remember getting into as a kid, because again, being a young kid growing up in New Jersey, it was harder for me to watch the NWA than it was for some of my fellow wrestling fans. But I remember getting to see Terry Taylor versus Arn Anderson for that TV title.
Oh yeah.
And that's wrestling. That's wrestling right there. That's psychology and great ring work. And you got to see a smooth operator like Terry Taylor, a good looking babyface kid, versus the enforcer Arn Anderson, who, man, was he good.
It was. I love the purpose of the TV title was that every week on television you were going to get a title defense with a 15-minute time limit. I believe it was maybe 20.
It was 15.
There was always
15.
a set time limit, and you could use that as part of the storytelling. Like somebody could take the champion to 15 minutes, set up for a rematch, set up for something down the road. There was so much you could do with it, but the point of it, which is why I wonder today, I like the iteration of it today, but you have to modernize it because now you're talking about what's your streaming services. That's what it's probably not going to say ABC or CBS on the, the side of the belt. Although I think Paramount is CBS, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Paramount CBS.
But
and I mean, realistically, they do have. If you were to use it on the WWE per se, you could actually probably do something like this because they have association with ABC, CBS, NBC, Netflix now,
Yeah, there's a ton of almost everything.
They're kind of associated with everybody, so you could probably do it. I always love this. I do love this title's rules. I remember watching WCW Saturday Night and 6:05 Eastern on the Super Station, and at the end of the show, it was Gary Michael Capetta was always their announcer. This match is set for 15 minutes or TV time limit remaining.
Yes,
because remember there were some times where they would say 15 minutes, but there was only 12 minutes of TV time left.
Right. And that was really cool. It was always because it made it feel real. It made it feel realistic. I mean, that's one of the things I think that's really missing today is in terms of title belts, they don't feel real. The matches don't really feel important, and they've got too many. So when everybody's a champion, what do they mean? And when I mean too many, there are way too many.
There are way too many. And it's not just one. I'm not just complaining about one company. No, every major company has way too many titles. The one that I don't know if you could consider them major. I guess they're major indie at this point. They're about as close to being major as you can get without having a real TV deal. And that's Major League Wrestling. Yeah. Major League Wrestling, the one thing I do like is they set it up as weight classes. So at least there's some difference to it. Like I know they have a middleweight title. So like that's kind of cool to me is, all right, well, this is the world heavyweight title. This is the world middleweight title. If you were to say this is the world cruiserweight title, I could say, okay, well, yeah, you have, or like one's an open weight title or something like that. Like that kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, if you're looking to make it more like a sports, like a combat sport theme, that certainly is a good way to go.
I think that's where the crowbar for the too many titles comes into play. If you were to do it more combat sporty, where there were weight limits and weight classes, I don't know if it would work, but at least it would make sense to me.
Yeah.
But now we've just got too many. There's too many titles. Everybody has a title, so titles that were supposed to be special aren't special. Yeah. So if everyone has a title and the title is just supposed to be special, you holding a title is no longer special.
Right. Well, if you're, we joke about you taking the pencil a lot and booking. If you're booking and it's just you, and maybe, I don't know, maybe you've got a couple of people that put some input in, however it would work.
Mozart Fontaine is my number 2.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You can't. there's always a problem with that. So if you just relinquish control of your, I don't know, your, let's just use WWE for example. I'll do the heavyweight titles. You do Intercontinental and US. Then I might not like what you've done with them. So
Exactly.
then that's my fault because I gave you the
I
go ahead
like
and do
the
that.
idea of someone being in charge of a division as far as the booking goes, but I also think that there still needs to be a sit down with, hey, it still needs to work in the context of the show.
Yeah.
I've made this joke, and I think this would be a really cool one, and it would be cool to have you work with them because of your love for tag team wrestling.
Oh yeah. Love tag
But
team.
if it was ever a set where, and I love tag team wrestling too, by the way, but
Mhm.
I am much better adept at booking singles wrestling than I am at tag team wrestling. Although I don't know because I've never had real tag teams to work with in my fantasy booking. So
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe I am better than I know. But I always said if someone gave me the pencil for a promotion, sake of argument, Tony Khan decided to give me full control of AEW.
Mm-hmm.
This is literally the point I think I could get certain people back to wrestling. One, I would bring you on as an advisor for tag team wrestling, but the other guy that I would bring on
Nice.
for tag team wrestling, and I think this is the only way that I could get him back into the wrestling business, I might actually bring Jim Cornette on.
Wow. That
And
would
give
be
him
cool.
full control of the tag team division, again, within the scope of my program. Like, what you book still has to work in my world, but let's work together to make it work within my world.
Yeah, and I think that's where it gets convoluted is because you really do have to come together because you're trying to put a whole show together and a whole title picture together. So it gets difficult. Even if you're doing it yourself, you're like, oh man, well I want to do this with my my middle title, but that's not going to fit where I really want to go with my major title.
That's where that goes in.
it's
Mozart, I don't know if we've ever had this conversation, but the guys from South Park, they were teaching a seminar one time, and I actually have to send you the video of this if I've never sent it to you.
Oh, okay.
But it's them talking to a class of like theater kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because you associate them with South Park, but you also have to realize that they've won Tony Awards. You know, like they make major stories.
Yeah.
With like Book of Mormon and stuff like that. And like they understand the reason why South Park is so good is because they understand the greatest aspects of storytelling.
Right.
And one of the things they say is, so every scene in your show or in your story, there's a beat in between there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, well, we did this and we go to the next scene, right? Like, but if you're telling the story and you tell the story and let's say it's, okay, we have Steve Zapf versus Mozart Fontaine in 1 week, and then we have Mozart Fontaine versus Steve Zapf the next week. Well, and then doesn't work. When you say and then, it's a cop-out. It's just the next thing that happens. But if we have Steve Zapf versus Mozart Fontaine this week, and we have Steve Zapf versus Mozart Fontaine next week, because this happened, therefore this will happen. But this happened, therefore this happens. That's how you tell a story. You need a reason why you got to the next part.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing. And that's with how you book a title. It's how you book a show, and that's how you book a title. That's the reason why a lot of these wrestling shows in modern wrestling feel like they're schizophrenic, so to speak. They're all over the place.
Right.
But I agree with, I want to get back to the TV title. We almost went down a rabbit hole again.
Yes, we did.
But the TV title, I always felt like, I agree with you. That's one of those things that felt very important because, and it could change hands all the time because it was defended on every television show. And I like that. I love the time limit because if you take them to the time limit, and let's say you have babyface A going after heel B, who is the champion, and every time they just go to the time limit. Well, then you make it to the pay-per-view and go, okay, well, for this pay-per-view, the TV title will be defended in a no time limit match. And all of a sudden you've got a story built there because the heel, he's been getting off by like, all right, well, I'm just going to make sure I stick it out until my 10 or 15 minute time limit is out. All right, well, now there's no time limit. Now you actually have to win. And that was always like the Flair thing. Like Flair would lose by disqualification, by count out, by whatever. And then when it came to the big match, what would piss you off is he would win.
Yeah.
And now I really want to see him get his ass kicked.
Yeah. I always thought what was really, and it was very simple, but it was also brilliant in its simplicity, which is a lot of what Jim taught me. And if we go back and dissect, some classic things now, he'll point things out. When Flair would go from like heel to face, he never changed anything. It's just the fans were behind him. Maybe a little less rule breaking, but he had the same moveset. He did the same things. It's just this time they happened to work. Well, instead of fooling around and screwing around and, playing with his hair, so he gets caught at the top rope, he gets over it, gets down and goes up top for the axe handle in enough time to really make it work. He didn't change much. And that's, I think, was the hallmark of the great workers, was that they weren't like, okay, well, I'm going to be a face, so I'm going to do all this great stuff. And then when I'm a heel, I'm not going to do it. Because the people start to learn what you do, who you are as a performer, who you are as a wrestler. And you go flat if you're switching back and forth. So I think that's why he worked for so many years as the heavyweight of the world champion.
I agree. And I said this when earlier in the year when Naomi became the women's champion. Before she went out for pregnancy. Mm-hmm. Naomi, a couple years ago for the WWE, was possibly their best pure athlete that they had. Mm-hmm. But over the course of 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years, there had been injuries.
Right.
Your body, you're getting older. Just in general, I'm not saying she's old. What I'm saying is 5 years, you're 5 years older than you were. You're out. Let's say you tear an ACL or every time you pull a muscle or you do something, your body doesn't you don't go back to exactly how you were. You're now a little compromised in that way. And I feel like when she came back this time, she was trying to move at a pace that was a little bit faster than what she should have been moving at. Yeah. And this is the point where I'll give you the opposite side of that coin that you just said. Flair never changed who he was. This is the point where you can go heel and change what you're doing and slow it down and not do all the stuff that you were doing because, well, now I'm a heel, but the reason you're doing it is self-preservation realistically. And that still works within the storyline. And I thought that was what worked with her is she started working a lot more on character stuff. And she didn't always have to be doing the splits and like the high kicks and everything that she would do normally. And she didn't have to dance to the ring and blow herself up and do all this stuff. And I'm not saying she was out of shape by any means, but there are things that I did at the end of my career, or there were things that I did at the beginning of my career that I did not do at the end of my career. And I'm sure even you're the same way,
Oh yeah.
I don't do a nip up Hurricane Rana anymore. You know why? Because my average weight in the ring was 15 to 20 pounds heavier than I was at the start of my career.
I think that's a natural progression, though. Like, obviously Ric Flair from his early days until what he did at year retirement had kind of waned off a little bit. For him, it was mostly the amount and the insanity of the bumps he would take, just the pure amount that he would take. But I don't think even in that case did Naomi maybe change who she was. She just pulled out some of the flashier stuff that worked as a babyface because you don't want them as a heel being like just clapping for your great looking split or your great looking high kick or something,
Yeah, like you don't want to hit this super moonsault that looks amazing when you're supposed to be getting booed.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and again, there's so many ways that things can work in wrestling. And when you put, another kind of perennial favorite of that TV title was the Great Muta. Sting and TV, other than Arn Anderson, Sting and the Great Muta were, good TV champions. And
I remember there's before they got into it for that title though, there's I think it's a Starcade a late 80s Starrcade that has Sting defending the TV title. And it's so crazy because the guy that he's defending the TV title against is the Iron Sheik.
Really? I had no idea.
I think it's on Peacock or one of the vaults that you can look up right now. But I remember going through it, and it was like, I think it's Sting in like the blue and white with like, it's Surfer Sting, obviously, but
yeah.
Man, like some of those TV champions, Stephen William Regal, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah.
That's one of those guys. Steamboat as the TV champion, being the workhorse champion.
Yeah. That was, I think for TV, you needed a good, solid wrestler for it wasn't
the first title that he ever held was Steve Austin held the TV title.
Oh yeah, that's right. Austin was a pretty,
and he held it for a while.
It was the same title, yeah, until I don't even know. I think it was later on after the Hogan era when they kind of changed the belt to the different
I think it was closer to like that 94 when they made it like kind of a plain looking, and it was like a red lettering WCW on top, and it was weird because it wasn't the WCW logo, it was just 3 letters that were like hooked together or something like that. It was still kind of a cool looking belt though. It
wasn't bad looking,
I dig the simplicity of it.
Mm-hmm.
That the TV title in general, I just always feels like it's a good belt. Like you said, it's just it's a cool looking design. I think that's always why that's that belt that.
And although it was kind of fading out by the time I really got heavy into about 85 when I got really heavy into the NWA, the national heavyweight title, which I think the last person to hold that version was Terry Taylor. Remember they did it was after the UWF, the Mid-South buyout, and they were combining the U.S. and the national title, which kind of makes sense because isn't it really the same territory? Now, again, when you have different territories, like if you're calling, I don't know, the Mid-South's version national and Georgia's or the Carolinas United States, well, I understand why you would differentiate the names. Works, but once they're bought out, it's pretty much the same company. Like so they combined them. I think it was Nikita and him for the, and Nikita still had that really cool U.S. championship, and Terry had that really cool national title that looked like the world TV title that we've been so high on. But it was gold and black.
I just love that TV title, man, and I really do. And honestly, these titles that we've been talking about, I mean, there's not. Listen, fans, Legion, if you have your own pick too, please let us know what your favorite title is.
Yeah.
Listen, and there's no judgment here. We won't bash you if you like if you like current titles. I'd like to ask Steve if somebody does like leave in the comments. Like, I find it hard to relate to them because they look like toys to me. Like if I'm a guy, even if I don't know, I wouldn't be, but if they hired me and I win the belt, I'm like, whatever. This thing looks terrible. I guess I'll wear it to the ring. Like I've had the pleasure of wearing some really nice looking pieces of hardware. You know what? I think the last one I really liked, and it's funny because I hear a lot of people that don't like it, or at least from I guess from the WWE standpoint, was when they did the Undisputed title, the one that The Rock and Lesnar and Hogan held in the early 2000s. I actually like it. It's a bigger belt.
I think I like that one too, if I'm thinking of the right one. Yeah. And
then the other ones that I really like modernly is kind of anything that TNA put out. The TNA titles were really cool looking.
They do look. I started to say we've not mentioned them, and I just saw a few recently, and I'm like, they look really good.
They do look good, like and even honorable mention, I guess it would be that international title that they have, because I love that light blue strap that they have on there. That's a cool one. But I feel like if we don't round it out soon, we're going to be talking about cool titles and bad booking all night. I mean,
you can.
We've done it. Man. We've done it. Actually, by saying all night, what I mean is this is what me and Mozart talk about throughout most of the day, every day.
Exactly, yeah.
Like all
take a break
long.
from work.
Like hey, I'm at work, but isn't it crazy that so-and-so never held the world title or something like that?
Exactly.
Like, random questions like that will come up at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
But fans,
Wouldn't you take a
Legion,
moonsault with a spiked vest on? Yeah, it's those kind
yeah,
of
like
questions. No, I'm
no,
just
yeah,
kidding.
why is that happening? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy this stuff. But Legion, as always, thank you for sticking around with us. We're planning on 2026 being way bigger than our 2025. As far as the Lariat Podcast Network goes, we have other new shows coming out. Obviously, if you are not always just into our wrestling stuff, please check out our humor and lifestyle with You Heard It Here Worst. That's with Mr. Brock, Gabe, our resident male lesbian, and of course, Fifth, our unemployed employee. They are something special and something to behold over there. Get into Birthday Beat 'em Up. It's a good time. Also, we're going to be having some other shows. Mozart's going to be getting his own show eventually. It's going to be crazy. We
Oh
got
yeah.
the Wrestling Symphony with Mozart Fontaine.
I got a lot
We
to say,
have
but it's nobody probably will agree with me. But a lot to say.
we're gonna be getting Michael Mars back on here with his own show where
Oh,
he's
cool.
going to be doing some interviewing stuff. There's a lot of big things going on. We're going to have a couple other things. I believe we're trying to get a restaurant lifestyle show on here too with
that'd
some
be cool.
war stories from my fellow restaurateurs. So
Nice.
there's going to be a lot going on in the new year, but Legion, I want to thank you because you've grown us enough in the last year, almost 2 years now, where it just makes sense to keep going. And we love you guys. And I never thought I'd be producing 6 shows. Heck, I never thought I'd be producing more than one show. And now we're at 3. We're going to be moving to 6 or 7. It's amazing. And we'll be having more merchandise coming out. I just want to thank everybody and wish everyone a happy new year. And Mozart, thank you for joining me today. As always,
Thank you.
We'll have to mock Howard for his conspicuous absence here.
Well, you know where Howard's at. It's New Year's Eve, so if he's choking on roast beef, he's not getting.
He's getting roast beef somewhere.
Tonight.
Yeah, he's got a nice prime rib. He's like, it's not roast beef, it's prime rib. It's still roast beef,
rib.
Howard.
He'll be able to get the roast beef down. Yeah, he'll be able to get the prime rib down. Yeah.
Oh man! All right, but Mozart, thank you as always, fans.
You're welcome. Thank you.
If you like what we're doing, hit that like, hit that subscribe, comment. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like, so we stop doing it and we can start doing more of the stuff you do like.
Exactly.
And
we appreciate
as
you.
always, guys, remember, tuck your chin when you bump.